before we get started, allow me to give you just quick notes. For those that are with us physically, kindly turn your phones on silent. We want all your attention. So please have your phones on silence. And please participate actively. For the participants online, kindly mute your mics and also turn off your cameras until you're invited to speak. Everyone else, please bring in your curiosity. Please be active participants, and let's get into the afternoon session. My name is Linda Birivonwa. I'm a partner with the BRMC. BRMC is the Boardroom Masterclass, and I am your host this afternoon. So I'll just give you a quick background for those of us that are new to the Boardroom Masterclass. Since 2022, the Boardroom Masterclass has been a space for one purpose: building better boards. Not through lectures, not through textbooks, through honest conversations like you're about to hear this afternoon. The kind of conversations that will keep resonating and you'll carry with you even after today. We have journeyed through themes that mirror the real challenges that boards face today. And each session, leaders have left with something, not necessarily a concept note, but something more tangible. Today in particular marks a special session, which is worth pausing. Today is the 10th BRMC session. So what are we saying? 10 rooms, 10 conversations, 1 conviction. That is how we lead, matters just as much as how we grow. I think we should give a round of applause to that. It's a milestone worth celebrating. Today's title is formal. It's Unlocking Corporate Governance for Long-Term Sustainability in Family-Owned Businesses. The theme is Family Business Creates Wealth, Governance Preserves It. But underneath both of those, the real question is deeply personal, and I'm sure each and every one of us, or we know somebody who would relate. Will what you have built outlive you? Will what we have built outlive us? We know the statistics. Most family businesses don't survive to their 3rd birthday. We have heard, we have read. Those that do rarely survive the handover from the 1st generation to the 2nd. And statistics also say fewer than 1 in 10 make it even to the 3rd. Here in Uganda, we have seen the stories in the media, we have heard, we even related in situations where the founder passes on, the family doesn't know what the business actually was doing. Within months, the business is also gone. Or there is no succession plan. The founder is retiring. The family doesn't understand what the business does. The family spends years in court haggling over who is going to lead it next. Another statistic going down. The reasons are more or less not about markets or capital. It's really about the talent. It's about structure. It's about clarity, the courage to have the hard conversations and ask the hard questions. Who is going to make the decisions going forward? Who is going to lead us next? These are all governance questions. And this afternoon, we are going to work and walk through them. By the time we close, each of us, as I had said earlier, whether you're a founder, whether you're a successor, whether you're a board member, director, advisor, governance guru, you should live with something. At least one thing which you'll actually do differently. And that is our BRMC call to action for you for this afternoon. So before we go further, allow me to give a moment of genuine gratitude to our partners. The Boardroom Masterclass is a free to attend, as you saw the invitation. It's a free to attend platform. It's only possible because of partners who believe that better governance is an investment, not an expense. So to JKC Consulting, LegalMark Advocates, Stateman Global, and Covey. 10 sessions and you're still here. We thank you. The representatives are in the room. We thank you. And to anyone in this room considering to sponsor a few sessions and the future sessions, the door is open. We are open to the support. Help us make this platform bigger and more impactful and bolder. Governance conversations like these build the businesses that build Uganda and eventually build our businesses and families. So finally, every great conversation needs a great guide. For our session on succession, legacy, and family governance, we didn't need someone who just knows the terrain academically, no. We needed someone who has stood in the middle of it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have Senior Counsel Ruth Sebatindira moderating our session this afternoon. Ruth, I hope I can actually summarize your profile and do it justice. Ruth is a senior counsel, as mentioned, with 29 years at the bar. She's the founder and managing partner of Legal Mark Advocates, where she leads two practices that speak directly to us today: tax and business succession, and technology and intellectual property. She served for 8 years as a member of the Judicial Service Commission, and she's a former president of the Uganda Law Society. She's a member of the International Bar Association Committee on Private Wealth, contributing to global conversations on generational wealth, the very topic we are gathered here to explore. But what distinguishes Ruth most for today is not a title or a credential. It is this. We are all familiar with Uganda Telecom. She was the court-appointed administrator of Uganda Telecom, steering one of the most complex institutional solvencies the country has ever had. She has seen up close, she has been there, and she understands what happens when governance fails. The experience led her to co-found the Boardroom Masterclass, and it is what makes her the ideal person to guide us through this afternoon's session. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ruth, Senior Counsel.
Thank you, Linda. I tease Linda that she's the boss with the oil. First oil is with her. Linda chairs the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. So you see governance, we are moving in the light of governance. Thank you so much. Let me introduce my panelists. Aga, Mr. Aga Sekalala Jr. is the Chief Executive Officer of Ugachik Poultry Breeders with over 30 years of business leadership. He has played a key role in the growth of Ugachik, serving in management from 1992 to 1996 and returning as Executive Director in 2010. He's also a serial, I like that, the serial entrepreneur, having founded Radio Simba, Hot 100, and Radio Simba Kenya, and has interest in commercial property development. Mr. Sekalala has held several prominent leadership positions, including Director of the Uganda Export Promotions Board, Uganda Investment Authority, and the Uganda Management Institute, former chair of the Poultry Association of Uganda, chairman of KCB Bank, and member of Uganda's National COVID-19 Fund. He currently serves as chairman of the Uganda Manufacturers Association. He holds a degree in chemical engineering and is an alumnus of Harvard Business School. Damn. Haji, welcome. Yeah. You know people, but when you read stuff about him, like, why is he humble? Yeah. Miss Patricia Karugaba is a distinguished entrepreneur, business leader, mentor, and public speaker with extensive experience in retail, interior design, and entrepreneurship. She serves as the managing director of Nina Interiors Limited, one of Uganda's leading furniture retail companies, serving clients across Uganda, South Sudan, Rwanda, and the DRC. Beyond her corporate leadership role, Patricia is a passionate advocate for infertility awareness, a mentor to women and young girls, and a sought-after speaker on topics including entrepreneurship, personal development, leadership, and infertility advocacy. Her professional development includes executive and management training from renowned institutions such as Strathmore Business School, Lagos Business School, Nigeria, and the Asian Institute of Management, Philippines, and the AF International, Sweden. She also holds a diploma in interior design from the KLC School of Interior Design, London, and a Bachelor of Arts in Social Sciences from Makerere University. Patricia. Welcome. I think each one of us in our houses, we have an item sold to us by Nina Interiors, by Patricia. Dawn. I had to ask Dawn whether Dawn is a real name, like the Dawn, Yeah. Yes. And Dawn is an accomplished Ugandan business executive, academic, and leadership development advocate with a proven track record in entrepreneurship, talent development, and organizational growth. As the managing director of Aloysia Organic, he leads a well-established family-owned enterprise specializing in herbal pharmaceuticals and cosmetics, driving innovation and sustainable business growth. He's also the founder and CEO of Dawn Swift, a human capital and recruitment consultancy that has successfully connected hundreds of young professionals to career opportunities while supporting SMEs and corporate organizations in building high-performing teams. An accomplished scholar and educator, Mr. Bujingo serves as a lecturer of marketing and French, at Makerere University Business School. He holds a first-class honors degree in marketing, a professional qualification from the Chartered Institute of Marketing, and a master's degree in marketing with honors from, is this a French word, like Montpellier, business school. Yeah. Welcome, Dawn. Really. This panel, without a doubt, will deliver us to our destination. We want to unlock corporate governance in order that we may build enduring businesses. That is what we are here to do. This is a corporate governance forum. So how do we unlock corporate governance to build enduring businesses or to build sustainable businesses? So without further ado, I will didn't they say the phones are supposed to be off? Yeah. So I'll kick us off with each one of us taking a turn to tell us what your African business journey has been like up to now, and what have you brought as an individual to this journey of your family business. Can I ask Aga to start?
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you for that introduction. I would like to congratulate the team that have made the effort to come out this afternoon. I hope that we can share, or at least impart one or two valuable nuggets from our experience or from our mistakes that we have made. I think I was introduced. What do I do? Our family business spans about 50 years. The business was started by my father after in the early 70s, and he was together with my late mother. They started the business, and they started off trading, and eventually they moved on to commercial agriculture. They moved on to agro-processing. The business has gone through many cycles throughout the times, and it has spanned many diverse businesses, including manufacturing, hospitality, and up to where it is currently. The business consists of Yuga Chick Poultry Breeders, which is I think the subject of discussion for today, which is a poultry processing company, has been around since 1992, and is part of the chicken value chain. It produces day-old chicks, which we sell to farmers. It produces animal feeds, which are also sold to the same farmers. But it also produces a dressed poultry product, which is sold in the supermarkets and to restaurants and hotels. We, in addition to Yuga Chick, we also run a flavoring company, which is probably never been heard of by anybody. It's an export business, and essentially we export vanilla flavoring to the United States. We've been doing that business since 1989, and we've got customers in France, Germany, the United States, the UK, and that's also one of our older businesses. We have an agro trading business, which is trades in agrochemicals, fertilizers, organic fertilizers, and that sort of thing. There is a property arm to the business, like most Ugandan businesses. They always have an aspect of property for reasons, historical reasons. The businesses always have property which includes office buildings, shopping malls, residential properties, apartments, and a whole mix of things that industrial properties that have been built up over 40 or so years. And then personally, I'm an entrepreneur myself, and coming from an entrepreneurial family, we were taught early on that you go out there and you make your own wealth. So I studied chemical engineering, and when I came back, joined together with some friends, got involved in the entertainment business, got involved in radio media broadcasting business, got involved in the networking business with technology, went across the border, established a media company there. We eventually sold that media company, and my personal, I've also built up a small portfolio of property myself. So I am a father of 4 boys, and that's one of the things that I'm most proud of, and a grandfather of 1 beautiful girl.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you. Like I was introduced already, my name is Patricia Gaba. I'm currently the managing director of Nina Interiors. Ruth said that all of you have something from Nina Interiors. I think she lied. But for those of you who don't, this is your chance to get something so that you don't make her a liar. We have 3 branches, so it should be convenient. And so 1 branch is at Ginger Road. There's another office experiential center at Makindye. And the 3rd branch is at Luboa. And I'm trying to get past the corporate governance hurdles to get authority for the 4th branch. In the meantime, if you can't reach any of those branches, you have an option of buying online. So what we do is home and office furniture, as well as garden and commercial furniture, some on retail, other on project basis. We also do customized blinds and curtains, and we offer the interior design service, space planning, furniture repairs, and reupholstery. That's what Nina Interiors does. Nina Interiors this year in about 2 weeks, we'll be celebrating 35 years of existence. Thank you. But in actual fact, Nina Interiors is older than 35 years. It started before, and then corporate governance came in. So we had to do the certificate of incorporation. So that's what we follow, but we were born before. I don't know if any of you has a birthday earlier than your birthday in the passport. So that's the situation with Nina Interiors. It was founded by my mother, Mrs. Alice Karugaba. I had a sneaky plan of getting her in the audience so that I can defer many of the questions to her, but it didn't work out. I'm the youngest of her children, and I'm the managing director. I'm the mother of two lovely girls, twin girls. They're my pride and joy. It's a good thing that they are not the topic for discussion. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Patricia. Dawn.
Thank you. Good evening to you all. I must say it's a great privilege to be on such a platform with wonderful, accomplished entrepreneurs. I must confess, Aga's business experience alone swallows up my entire life's existence. But it's a pleasure, Aga and Patricia, to be here with you. My name is Don Patrick Bujingo, and I'm Managing Director at Aloysia Organic Natural Health Products. We are a family business, second generation family business that now spans 14 years in existence. And this is a business that was started by my late mother. On the 2nd of July this year, we'll be making 5 years since her passing in COVID. And I am happy every time I get to stand before people and proudly say that I'm part of a family business. And I genuinely consider myself an entrepreneur, not because I went to business school, but because I had the privilege of being raised by my mother. So today, Aloysia Organic, through the passion that moms had, in line with improving and shaping the perceptions around herbal medicine. Remember the idea that herbal medicine was in either mineral water bottles or being hawked somewhere and being told that one bottle was such a wonder bottle that could solve 100 problems. That's the kind of perception that she wanted to kill. And the idea for her was, how can we get another class of people to appreciate herbal pharmaceuticals and medicines uniquely by working on what our presentation looked like, packaging, the messaging around the products, how we run tests through them, and the alignment with entities like National Drug Authority, URSB, to ensure that we have great quality. And as much as her experience was way before 2012, 2012 is when I began to be part of the business, and that was when I was only joining university at the time. So I'm happy to discuss and be on a platform to share about governance, because to be honest, 5 years down the road without the existence of our mother, I think governance has been one of the #1 pillars that has allowed us to exist to date. And while I celebrate a number of things in that journey, even surviving alone, I think, is one of my biggest celebrations. So at Aloysia, we focus on the herbal pharmaceuticals and investing in research. We've made an effort to focus on what we are best at, and that's the manufacturing, while partnering with research institutions, academic institutions to help us on the research element. We do manufacture the products, provide the products onto the market. We run 3 units. We have a head office at Shore House. We have a branch in Masaka and another outlet in Nansana. And for us, the growth journey has been that we may not open as many branches per se all over the place, but taking advantage of trends and models that allow us to expand. Aloysia products are now in pharmacies like Fast Pharmacy, Free Acre, Eco Farm, and that's the goal for us to be able to expand that way. So going forward, I'll be happy to share more, but ideally it's more of a privilege to be able to share the story of transition from our late mother to myself and my siblings, 2 of which are involved in the business now, and then the challenge on our heads to see how that crosses onto another generation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now I would like to know, at what point do you enter into the business as a family member? Aga, when do you get into the business? How and what were the factors that led to, let's say, your father saying, come and join me? Or what is that journey? How do you as an individual get in? And then after you went in, what lesson have you picked? The one thing that you can quickly tell us that on this journey so far, because I went in, this is the #1 lesson I can share.
Thank you, Ruth. I think mine is a mixed bag. I have several entry points and I have a few exit points. I think I never worked a day for somebody else. When I finished my undergraduate studies, I came back home, largely because I felt at the time that there was lots of opportunity That was at the time, at the time it was 1990, 1989, 1990, which is, it was a time when Uganda was changing. There was a big change. The times were ripe for changes, and there seemed to be very many opportunities. So after college, I came back to join the family business. I spent a bit of time working with different entities and learning how they work. But with some of the older businesses were already working at that time, which included the trading business, and at the time a hotel business and the property business. However, when it comes to the business like Ugachik, that business was started. I was present when the business was started by my father and some two friends of his. So as the investors sat to talk, and I was there from the day one, from the very beginning, I was present, and I was the secretary, always writing down the notes, and the one who had to remember the dates and the commitments made. And when the business started, I took up employment inside the business as a manager to be able to operationalize and build up the business. At some point in time, I did leave the family business to go off and do some of my own interests, to do some of the investments and some of the businesses that I had interests in. I would say I took a sabbatical, and my sabbatical must have lasted about 13 or 14 years. And when my father decided that he wanted to start this journey of a transition, we had a long conversation. A conversation must have lasted about 4 years, from 2006 to 2010. And the conversation typically often happened on aeroplanes, happened while I was taking him to the hospital, happened while, in very awkward places. But we had lots of discussions about the transition and how it would work and what it would look like. And in 2010, I came back to become the Chief Executive Officer. But my role is as an Executive Director of Ugachik Poultry Breeders. And at that point in time, I became the Executive Director of the whole group. And I was given the mandate to propel the group into the next into the 2020s. So basically, that was in 2010. So that's been a bit of a mixed journey on how you go back in and out. But in some of the cases, the businesses were started in my presence or with my presence, but perhaps I was not the contributor of capital, but I was quite present, and I was there to start these businesses.
Thank you, Aga. Can I ask Patricia, how do you enter the business? And what is that one lesson you can say we can pick from the fact that you entered the business?
Trying to see where to start, because we have the official beginning of Nina Interiors and the unofficial one. But my mom has always had that need to put food on the table and has done one side hustle after another. And one of the earliest things she did was to bake buns and sell in her office, sometimes cakes. And I think that was my first job, to baste the tray or to clean up, help her in the kitchen. And we would get paid. The pay was you are allowed to lick the cake. Yeah, it was pay. Otherwise, it was really lovely. The other pay was you would get one bun. So that, I think, really was a job, and that's how I entered the enterprise of Mrs. Alice Karugaba, which eventually became Nina Interiors. She then started Nina Limited, a grocery shop in Wandegea, and there she would pick me up from school and take me with her to the shop. Why? Because in those days, people used to walk home, children used to walk home, and we lived in Nakasero, I was in Kitante Primary School, and there was that big road, Kitante Road. I couldn't cross it. I was so afraid of crossing the road, and so many children were being knocked down. She was equally afraid of my crossing the road. So she would tell me, you walk from school and wait under the big tree. You see that Mulago roundabout around CMI, it has a big tree. It was there 50 years ago, that big tree. So I would sit under the big tree, and she would come from office and pick me up. Instead of going back home, I would follow her to work. And because she's a Muchiga and doesn't allow people to be idle, I had to work. I was there P3, P4 around that time. And my job was to measure sugar, measure Vaseline. There was no Vaseline. Blue Seal was not there. You'd buy a drum of petroleum jelly, and then we would measure it and put it in small buveras and tie the head. So I needed to measure sugar, 1 kilo, half kilo. Those were easy, but there was also quarter kilo. And there I know I either cheated the customer or I cheated my mom. That quarter kilo was very difficult to measure. Then so that was primary. My mom had this thing of everybody did work to earn a living. I don't know if she really wanted us to earn a living or she didn't want us to ask her for money all the time. So all my siblings, every vacation, they had a job. My brother taught at kindergarten. My sister made popcorn and chocolate. But when my turn came, she had started Nina Interiors. So I joined Nina Interiors. At that point, my first salary was 20,000 shillings. And it's there that I learned the value of money. And I learned that when you work, you get money, and that money elevates you. Because when I went to Gayaza High School, after my S4 VAC, I had pocket money that made me roll with kids of wealthy people. You know, it was a status symbol to drink soda, to buy soda from the canteen. And I could roll with those girls and buy soda, but we were not from a wealthy family. It was only because I had a salary during holiday. So I learned that I worked during holiday. And of course, then having tested that when you work with mom, you earn, it became obvious. Essex, every holiday, I wouldn't even wait for vacation, every holiday, you had a choice. You could stay home and do housework, or you could go and work at Nina Interiors. Tell me, which one would you do? Yeah, I'm officially allergic to housework, so you know what I did. So from holiday to holiday, Nina Interiors became part of me. Going through and preparing for this, I wondered how life would have been. It just became so normal. It's something you do. I guess in olden times, if you came from a family of hunters, you just go and hunt. If you come from a family of blacksmiths, you go and do whatever blacksmiths do. So that became my life story. It might be a bit different for my siblings, but for me, it just became a natural and very normal thing to do. I had a chance to leave. I was offered a position as a, what do they call them, executive assistant of someone who had come to set up the Japanese embassy. It was tickling. He was interested in me because I had furnished his house. He liked the way I addressed him and all that, and the way I did my work. And I had done political science at the university, and I had done a course in diplomacy. So I was perfect for the job. But I didn't take the job. I didn't even discuss it with my mom. Do you know why I didn't take the job? Because my understanding of what I was going to do for him was that I was going to type his letters. And based on how strict my mom was about the letters I write, I was not good enough at punctuation. So based on that, I'm like, let me stay selling curtains. That one doesn't need commas and full stops. Yeah, and then my next attempt to leave, it was a case of burnout. And I was like, let me go and do my own thing. I like reading, I like writing, let me do a bookshop. It didn't work out, and anyway, mommy was like just waiting for me to come. I was the prodigal who she knew, you're going to come, but I'm waiting for you. So I came back. His sojourn took 13 years. I think mine might have taken, not even 13 months. I don't remember how long, but I came back very quickly. I got broke very quickly. Yes, and so what has my lesson been joining the family business? Like I said, for me, it is second nature. It might not be the same for my siblings, but I learned so much from my mom. I don't know if other people have an opportunity to learn from their bosses. Of course, at the time that I was learning, I didn't think that I was learning. I just thought she was being bossy, but it was really good. The one thing that I've learned is the importance of keeping your promises to your customers, keeping your promises to your suppliers, keeping your promises to stakeholders like the banks. Nina Interiors was able to grow because of bank facilities that we got. We had overdrafts. We just had to keep our promise on the payments that we'll make. We've grown on supplier credit because we've always kept promises. On one of the earlier journeys that I went with her, we went to Dubai. And everywhere we went, as she would walk by, they would call her, Nina, Nina. And she told me, I have built my name because I keep my promises. You have to keep your promises. That's what I've learned from her.
Dawn, would like to hear how you enter the family business and then the
Yes.
one lesson that you carry with you as a result of your entry into the business.
Okay, so I think it's a great privilege to talk about the entry into the business, especially when it was early for myself, because I believe the early entry into the business was everything for me, and I think it feeds into everything I've been able to do. So, and it's mainly for two reasons, because in 2012, Mom starts the business as I'm also joining Makerere University Business School to pursue a Bachelor of Science in Marketing. And at that time, I would do my evening classes at MOOBS, and then during daytime, I would work in the business. But why I say there were two key lessons there in the start was that I was able to see what the business looked like in the beginning, in that every additional step that it has taken to grow, I have great appreciation for it and consideration to conserve it and maintain it, because I saw what it was in the beginning. I still remember the business with products, with no labels. I remember because it was HBT complex, almost down in Chiseka Market, and she was happy to start and ideally just get moving. And her belief was that I think starting was more important than any kind of readiness to get everything in place. So I picked that up right early. And running through MOOBS, I got done with MOOBS, and it was still through her encouragement that you need to be able to pursue a master's degree early. Truth be told, to date, I never saw the urgency because I felt I had enough time to be able to choose maybe which master's I wanted to pursue. But I think for her, there was a conviction that I needed to get done with studies and get into the business. But still, I wonder, because I never had any formal sit down to say you're the one going to take over the business. It never really happened. But I think from the many things she did, that I now look back and say, oh, wow, that was smart to do. There's some people I'd like to note in the audience. I've seen Owechitiwa Brenda Sekabembe of Bake For Me, Dr. Barbara Ofono of Victorious. Those were Mom's very good friends. And guess how I met them? Through events like these, where I should say, Dawn, please meet Brenda, please meet Dr. Barbara. Dr. Barbara, Brenda, meet my son. This is Dawn. So, and then of course the questions would go on why I was Catholic and why she was Muslim and so many things. But what really mattered in those introductions is that the people that were then her friends are now my friends as well and business partners. So that for me, I think, was the bit of the classes that she took me through that I never thought were actually moments of learning. So I got to France for my master's in 2018. And I remember when I was done, I had a great internship at a company called L'Oreal. It's the largest cosmetics company in the entire world. So Aloysia does and has the arm of cosmetics. So it was a very good experience for me to see what that business looked like at that international level. And coming to the end of the internship, I was done, and I was also offered an opportunity to join the Nairobi team. But Mom was very keen on me coming back very quickly. And that was around 2020. So guess what? Unfortunately, we lost her in 2021 to COVID. But I felt blessed because she had done all that was possibly necessary. So running through that entire journey, one of my biggest lessons, especially after her passing, because I was shocked that Mom actually passed in such a sudden way that we didn't plan for. As the firstborn, all my other siblings, the four of them, were still in school. So there I was. I had to take over the business. There was just no alternative. There was just no choice. But my biggest lesson has been that your business doesn't actually care who runs it. It only cares that the right decisions are taken consistently in that business. It doesn't care who runs it. You're brilliant, you're great, you might have founded the business, you might be qualified in the business, but the business doesn't really care who runs it, as long as the right decisions are taken consistently. And that really aligns with the discipline that corporate governance calls for. So that for me is my biggest takeaway.
Thank you, Don. I can tell you all the ladies in this room know L'Oreal. Yeah, we can identify. And I think would have wanted a stint in Paris at L'Oreal. Yeah. It is clear that every founder reaches a moment when the business can no longer live in their head alone. There have to be institutions. So I want us to go into one of our themes, which is professionalism and formal structures in family-owned businesses. And AGA, Yuga Chic has grown into one of Uganda's most integrated agri-businesses. So I'll start with you. How has governance, a real board, professional management, and that whole stack of corporate governance, how has that helped the business in scaling and resilience of the business?
Thank you. I think for Yuga Chic, the nature of the business is very, very technical. And if it comes to breeding, it often requires very technical people. We have a team today, which is a much larger team, but even at the beginning, we needed a team of vets to run the breeding department. If you're looking at our feed production, you need millers. You need people who know how to, blend different raw materials to make feeds. If it's the production of poultry, you need people who are food technologists, people who know how to certify, people who can pass what are UNBS, so Uganda National Bureau, which wasn't present at the beginning of when the business was founded, but now is part and parcel of the business. So the business required a lot of individual professionals along the way. And these individual professionals, and what that entails means that it is more technical than one person can be on their own. So there are more specialized tasks and requirements that the business had as it sort of went into these various areas. So naturally, there was a large, and there is a requirement to hire the best people. There is a requirement to find and source the people who are the right match. They call it the fit. Who will fit in a role at the price that the business can afford. So with these sorts of businesses, you have to search. Normally, they are nearly regional to global searches. And without a doubt, this is far beyond what one person can do. The requirement today entails, a headhunter, then the board, then the committee of the boards. So there is a large requirement to be able to fill these roles. And this started fairly early on, and it called for the business to have a team of professionals. And around professionals, typically you have another set of professionals who support them. So juniors who sort of support them. And this is why, and one of the reasons why to establish teams of this nature required naturally by extension to have 1, 2, 3 advisors who are good at human resource, for instance, to be able to hire and to keep these, to retain these professionals, and to select them from a vast universe of where these trainings and where these people learn from. So by extension, as the business grew, it was a natural progression that there had to be a team above and beyond the founder that did this on a routine basis. Because as you can imagine, if across the board you had 5 or 6 of these professionals, one, gets an emergency, stops working for you, you need to hire another person. So there's a constant need to replenish. So committees have to be set up. And by extension, that's really the foundation of professionalization of Yuga Chick poultry breeders, and establishment of really a board committee that sort of does hiring, and that has stayed in place up to this date.
Always have a board? Did the business always have a board, or the board was created at some particular time?
The board has been through various stages. Like I said in the beginning, the business was started by my father, together with the late James Bulwana and a friend of theirs from a German friend of theirs, Mr. Hans Blasberg. So there were three founders. The three founders, naturally, because they were stakeholders, naturally had to have a board to be able to run the business, because none of them directly ran the business. So they sat on the board and they invited one or two independent people to sit with them, and they sort of ran the company in the very beginning. With time, as they had less and less day-to-day, they appointed independent board members. So that's a bit of a historical transition. And in the process, once there was a group of people who provided this oversight at that level on behalf of the shareholders, with time, they have slowly appointed a human resource committee, a finance committee, to be able to run the more critical roles at that governance level. So some of it has been an evolution, some of it has been by the fact that, that's how the company was formed. So by nature, sort of by founding, it ended up with the structures there.
Thank you. Just before we go to Patricia, I note that your business is heavily regulated because of your value chain. Are you able to speak briefly? Sounds like you may have about 10 regulators. Other than URA, which is common to all of us, URA and maybe NSSA, but there are some that are peculiar to your business,
Yes.
which also calls for a robust corporate governance mechanism.
We are regulated by the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources here in Uganda, and we are also regulated because we export to Kenya. So the Ministry of Agriculture on the Kenyan side is also one of our regulators. The UNBS manages our plate products, and they manage to give us the Q marks for all of the products that we produce. So we've got maybe 15 different of these marks, which need to be renewed and managed every year. We have the National Drug Authority manages a lot to do with the large scores of vaccines and unique medication we use, which is not on the general market. So we need to figure out a way that we manage that. And those, those among us many, the regulators.
Thank you so much. Patricia, moving over to you, you are not heavily regulated. No. Yeah.
Except the URA.
Yeah, exactly. We all have a common regulator. But we want to hear the story of professionalizing and formal structures of the family business.
Okay. I'm glad you repeated the question, because I got so engrossed in Yuga Chick business. It's funny that the first major hire that we did was to take on a driver. That gave the business structure, because my mom was doing everything. And later, when we also joined, my sister and I, we were doing everything. So without structures, you have everybody doing everything. You're not getting anything done. But because she was a woman, and there were many foreign entities that were interested in growing women-owned business. This has gone. We were given access to training, and this trainer came in and said we had to have roles. And we were grabbing, I'll be sales manager, I'll be this, I'll be that. But my sister, my elder sister Nina, took up the role of GM shortly after which she left. So having those structures now gave us proper roles of what we were to do and how we were to do them. And then later on, a board coming in governs those roles to see that what we're doing right in the right way. Unlike AGA, we don't have all those regulators looking into what we're doing. But because now, as Nina Interiors, we have partners abroad, we have dealerships, we're applying for sole distributorships of certain products. There are many things that we have to meet our overseas partners' standards, and those, they're not regulators, but we could say they are the equivalent of our regulators.
Thank you. Don, we want to hear how you are formalizing and which structures are in place to ensure you're on the right path of corporate governance to scale the business.
Okay, so I think it's always good to appreciate the growth curve of businesses, and more specifically family businesses, especially because they usually sometimes begin either as sole proprietorship entities or grounded under families. So usually the first people that come on board are family members because they're the closest people that can provide support, maybe at a manageable cost that's usually affordable to the founder. And that's exactly how Mom started Aloysia Organic. I've shared before that I remember seeing a number of family members in the business that it almost felt like a home at some point. Aunties, being sent to make cups of tea here and there because you're also simply there as a family member. But then as we went into the direction of school, it then allowed us to appreciate that there were actually roles that needed to be taken up. Mom was, I think, actively into this role, and I think we share a bit of a story with Mrs. Karugawa that Patricia does share, that there were a number of entities that were coming on board to try to support women-owned businesses and helping them to structure and to really just put a bit of formalities into the business. But I still give credit to Mom because for some reason, even when there were not so many functions in the business to say this is HR, this is, marketing, somehow she got the business moving and she got things done and things were moving. But I figured that over time, and that also was the birth of our conflicting while I was going to school, because I would come back and say, but there's this thing that we can execute and implement. And she was happy not to take it on immediately because what was working was working. And I was feeling like there are things that needed to be done urgently. But still, I think I gave her the benefit of doubt that some decisions had to take time. And I must confess there was an element of trust versus control. And I remember sometimes saying that, her saying that trust is great, but control is better. And there was a need to really say that, okay, fine, if I bought a production manager, and think about it, in all honesty, you're manufacturing a product, what you're actually selling in that product is that intellectual property, like that formulation. So in her mind, at some point, there was a fear of saying, if I bring on board people to be the ones in charge of production, how then do I protect that IP that now belongs to me? They don't have a business anymore. But over time, we learned of the different ways and models in which this can be done. And I think by the time Mom passed, she had made an effort to bring on board professionals into the business. We had opened our doors towards the National Drug Authority, and they had come on board. What NDA requires is that if you have a herbal medicine product that is going to be in pharmacies for consumption, you must be notified. And we had taken a number of our products for notification. Now, some that are not medicinal have to go through UNBS, and they also had to take that journey. The uniqueness was that you pay attention to NDA, you pay attention to URSB. And she opened her doors towards those entities. Now, they fixed so many things. While many people in the industry felt they're going to come to shut you down, actually realized it was better that they were now coming to help us fix what was not working. And it allowed many people, because she was to some extent seen as a pioneer in that industry of herbal medicines and pharmaceuticals. So upon her passing, again, like I shared, I get to appreciate better that, you know what, time comes when the going concern of the business will actually have to happen. But you as a person, you don't really have a going concern. So the more you appreciate that, you learn that structures are great. And these are best implemented through discipline and a bit of humility. Because as a business owner or as a director, there is a notion to feel that you can always make a decision that you want, or you can always decide what direction you want things to go. So what we did in the beginning was to invest a bit more into recruitment. And why I said that there's a growth curve, it was difficult for us to just jump on the decision of a board immediately before even a formal management structure that takes decisions. So over time, we were able to look at what roles were needed to be taken on. For example, the finance role, we resolved that we'll have an entity that will outsource that function to an entity that handles finances. Part of that will also resolve on the issues of conflict and so many things internally. The other thing was the marketing and PR arm that is also outsourced to another entity. What's the goal? To ensure that internally you focus on the things that you have best attention on, or power on, or competence on. And over time, we brought on board a marketing manager as well, an HR manager, all of those that were supported by a recruitment firm. Now, this has allowed us to ensure that there's a bit of formality. For example, every Monday, we hold management meetings at Aloysia Organic. And what's the goal? We're following up on accountability. We're following up on what has been done, where could be the hiccups, and where can we support each other as managers. And what I've learned over time is that, and somebody really made this very clear at some point, to say, when you recruit these people to come into your businesses as professionals, of what use is it for them to come into your businesses, or for you to spend money to recruit them, and then you still end up telling them what to do? So there's a need for really to allow people do what they need to do as professionals. If you brought them on board as professionals, then they can actually be able to advise you. And over time, you realize that many of them actually usually have far greater ideas than yourself, because they have built competence in the dockets that they have built their careers in. So we've been able to establish that management team, and then also attempted to have an advisory board that speaks into what we do. One of the things that I felt becomes a risk to any business owner is you not being accountable to anybody. When you can honestly be able to point to anybody and make any decision happen, but you as a person are not accountable to anybody. So that's a very good place to be when you start being accountable to somebody, even if you're the owner of the business. So I think for me, the presence of the advisory board and the management team has been a great check for me as an individual. And guess what? Now my siblings that I told you were in school by the time Mom passed. Zaina, who follows me, just got done with her LDC, and she now serves as the company secretary in the business. All the contracts that we put together in the business, policies, name it, she's the person behind that. And then Rahma, who follows her, is now the head of procurement in the business. At the time, she hadn't yet even joined campus when Mom passed on. But the beauty is that the very business that Mom left is the entity that has been able to take them to school, enable them to graduate, and now also contribute back into the very business that educated them.
I forgot to share that I'm familiar with measuring sugar. My mom had, we had a family-owned business in Machindi. It used to be called Grace Mini Grocery. So we'd sell you the smallest of items, a matchbox, one something. Yeah, so I'm very familiar. But as for we had the quarter stone. We had the quarter stone. Yeah. And so I want us to move to succession planning and next-gen integration. And coming back to you, Aga, I like what your father did with you, managing you. And especially if you're taking him to hospitals, like, now what's wrong with you? Now you're taking me to hospital. The other thing, what are you thinking? So I would like to know whether the family had or has some protocols around succession, the family governance side. It sounds like the business is, there is no doubt. There is all the board charters and articles of association and shareholders agreements. But because of the sensitivity of family, I'm always curious to know, are there family protocols or policies or rituals that enable to soften the family side? Because sometimes the family, in family we are taking care of love, we are taking care of the heart. Am I seen? Am I loved? Am I? And maybe that's why you went away for 10 years. I want to hear that story. Yeah. Dad is not seeing me, does not know that I can build my own portfolio. Let me show him, But let's hear the story.
Thank you. I think I'll first sort of speak a little bit, speak a bit about to succession. the first question that you asked. What I've come to appreciate is that these businesses, as they, with time, in year one, year two, business is about the founder. Like we've all heard, you're a driver, you're the one who does everything. Everything revolves around the founder. As the businesses grow bigger, they all of a sudden have a multitude of stakeholders. And sometimes some of these stakeholders have even more interest in the business than the actual shareholders of the business. And that is something that you have to appreciate. And I think specifically in our family setup, one of the things that is why you hear about a long period of discussion is about understanding that you are a steward. And I think that that's a very, it's an important concept in our family to understand that you are holding on to something for the next generation. You're a steward, which means that you're accountable. You need to make sure that, one, it's maintained, perhaps it's grown, and three, there is still something there. Maybe if there is another generation to come ahead of you. But in the meantime, on a day-to-day basis, you have all these stakeholders. You've heard, like Patricia said, you have suppliers who you will find are funding 20%, 30% of the business. You will find a bank funding another 30 or 20% of the business. And then sometimes, in some cases, in some unique businesses, you will find that your customers are also funding the business, maybe with forward payments, or they are buying things, or they are booking things. In the business that we have, it is mixed. We have customers who come and book chicks. We owe them money. If you open our books today, they have come, they have made bookings, sometimes as far into the future as October, November. They are booking product. Those customers have given you their money. You owe them. So by nature, you have people's money. In that case, if a supplier gives you goods that you use to produce, you also have you owe the supplier money. So you tend to find that you have these stakeholders who are actually bigger in value than if you for the experts in the room, there will be accountants. You will find that they might have more value than what they call shareholders' value, because of all of the components that you have. And it is that you are, as part of succession, it is that you're being entrusted with. So unfortunately, what you're being passed on to is trust between the stakeholders and yourself. Will the employees buy in that you're going to be their leader? Will the suppliers buy in that this is the person they are going to give the company credit to? Will they pay us? Will the customers buy in that, yes, if we pay in advance, this person is going to deliver the goods that we have paid? So there is a whole ecosystem around which there is trust between the group of stakeholders and the company and the owners. And the owners will then now delegate that to one person who is now the successor, who has to lead the team, and sometimes it's a team of professionals, to affirm, to give credibility in the market. And that's why sometimes you hear similar, it's more common with banks, but you sometimes hear that a particular business is losing trust. Maybe they're no longer paying their suppliers. Their suppliers are complaining. Their customers are not getting delivery of the goods. So the business then, you have converted and you're now losing trust. Typically, when you don't hear about a business, that's normally good news. It means that the ecosystem all sides are working well, and that is the big entrustment that you're given in the as part of succession. So I think that that's more important to highlight, so that the listener understands, or that the person understands that succession is about that passing on of this trust to be able to handle the multitudes of stakeholders that have interest in this business.
In some jurisdictions or in some cultures, we see families that have family constitutions, family councils, a semblance of family governance that kind of mirrors or speaks into the business governance side. Some are written, some are not. Some families just have these rituals. Every Sunday lunch, you're together, but the founder or patriarch is passing on, or matriarch is passing on some values and some visioning for the family, but they kind of mirror themselves in the business side. Are you able to share any insights and experiences with that from your own experiences?
I think our family is, or was, or is always been one to gather around to have discussions around the business. We still do it, and we still have family discussions about family. So, whereby the discussion is purely about family, not business. We slightly differ in our generation. Very few of my siblings have, I think, had that immediate interest to say, I want to come and run the business. So I to date, I operate the business together with my sister, and sort of, so she's like a chief operating officer, really. But the rest of my siblings are professionals, and they're engineers, accountants, PhDs, teaching, all over the world. So I think that it's a question, and I think that it's always a ball in the air. Are you I think sometimes amongst siblings already know by positioning or by signaling from the parents that so and so and so and so are going to run. So I think there might be a bit of that. I'm not really sure what sort of signals that my father sent, but my siblings seem to completely know that I am around, and so when I ask them any question as to whether they will be showing up to do some work, normally the answer is no. You handle it.
Thank you, Patricia. Succession planning and next-gen integration. I want to hear your own experiences and whether there is any family protocols or written policies or family constitution or family council. They may not be written, they may be written, but what are those things you can point to? They say, by the way, I think this is our family governance.
This now is why I wanted my mom in the room, because I would have deferred this question to her. I think for the succession, because my mom is generation 1, I'm generation 2, the succession started as delegation, asking me to do tasks, asking me to help her, especially anything to do with the computer. It immediately became my role. My mom was a secretary for many years. That's why she's very good at punctuation and I'm not. She's very good on her phone now. She can text and what, but she didn't like using the computer, and I was okay with that. So she would say, write to this supplier, write to that one, write this letter. So that got me in touch with suppliers. Then also on purchasing trips, I think I escorted her on 3 trips, 1 to Dubai, 1 to Malaysia, 1 to South Africa. And then she did something which at the time I didn't know was drastic. She told me to arrange to go and buy machinery from Taiwan This was 1992, right? No, 1993. China hadn't really opened up, and here she is sending me to go to Taiwan to buy machinery. I had to arrange the visa myself. I had to send my passport to Mozambique to get a visa. Was it Mozambique or Malawi? One of those South African countries is where I got my visa to Taiwan. And I traveled on my own. And I was okay with it. But she said, when you get there, you will stay at the supplier's house. I got there to the supplier's house, and they were sitting on the floor for meals. Something didn't work out. You know, the like Japanese culture, I wasn't very comfortable sitting like that. I was fine at the hotel, and my host also preferred for me to stay at the hotel. Also, because the fish they served me, I knew I couldn't have meals in that house. So, and all this time that I'm there, I'm not in touch with my mom. And after my day's work, you know, setting up the machinery, learning how to use it, I would go back to the hotel, I'd be bored, I would get out and I would walk around the streets at night. Now I think about it, I did something very dangerous. I was not in Taipei, I was in Kaohsiung. It was not cosmopolitan. I was the only black face everywhere. So I could have been singled out to be abducted, to be mugged, whatever. Anyone who met me would say, Michael Jordan, America. Well, I'm not that tall, but I was taller than them, and that's all they knew about black people. My return, I think that, you know, was coming of age. Then I started traveling on my own, and when China opened up, I started traveling on my own completely, and she stopped traveling. That, I think, was the delegation and the succession planning for her, because she had shown me, when you're buying this leg is not strong. Can you imagine someone fat like this? It's not a good leg. So now I also know what to look out for, and I started learning how to negotiate with the suppliers. She'd always say, "Bashabeka discount." My mom can ask for a discount for a newspaper. So I learned a little bit of negotiation without having to go to learn negotiation skills. So that was one side of the succession planning. Then just giving me more work to do. Why I wanted her in the room was to ask her if it was deliberate or whether she just needed help. So assigning me tasks, sending me, go and do this, go and do that. Now you do this, you're in charge of this, you're in charge of that. And not just for me, but for all of us who are working in the business. I remember one of my cousins who was working us earlier on was the debt collector. Poor girl was so young. And when we talk about the stories of how she would go to stand up to people who owed us money, I was like, hey, mom was putting us at serious risk. She was one handling payroll, and those things kind of taught us what to do. That cousin of mine eventually was sent to go and open the branch in Rwanda. And again, I think about it that she went very young, very inexperienced to run a branch, which you're not just looking at the economic situation, but the political situation as well. Because our major customer at the time was State House of Rwanda. There's so much politics and security involved in that. So succession, bringing us in, training us by delegation, not sitting us in a class, but training us by delegation. And then nominating me and putting me forward for opportunities for training. Any time that there was an opportunity for training, she would say, there's this course, go and do this, even now, if she had seen this masterclass and I was not a panelist, she would have asked me to attend. She would have forwarded it to me and said, go and attend that. These things of oil, go and attend that. Because I think that's her way of getting me and my siblings ready for what we're doing now, which is to take over. So that's for generation 2. Succession of generation 3 will be different. Why I say it will be different is because, like Aga was there at the start of Yuga Chick. I was there at the start of Nina. Whether it's limited or Nina Interiors, I was there at the start. My mom started it to put food on the table because those were hard days. It was a side hustle that was going to feed her family. And I witnessed that this business succeeded in putting food on the table. So she started something out of a need, and I was the beneficiary of the result of that business. For the third generation, they've arrived when generation 1 and generation 2 have taken care of things, so there is no urgent need. Generation 3 are not hungry. At church, I see the way children rush to line up for food, and I have to look for my children and say, Nakato, go and line up for food. Because other children are hungry. They know they're going to get a meal. My children know they can get a snack, and anyway, we'll go home and get food. That is where the hunger begins. Now, this generation will not join the business to make money. They will join the business, like Aka said in another conversation, to follow a passion or to get another thing to satisfy them. They will only join the business if there's a crossroad with their passion or with family obligation or family loyalty. So the entry for generation 3 is going to be different. We have generation 3 in the business already. My sister's daughter is there. My cousin's daughter is there. Generation 4, we don't officially have a generation 4, but because my children are so much younger, my children are generation 3, they're so much younger than the mainstream generation 3, I look at them as generation 4. So whatever we're doing now, we have to see how it works with generation 3, down to Nakato and Babiri, who are sort of representing generation 4 just because of the age gap. So that will be different for them. In the question about a family constitution, it's best practice. I would like to know from any business here if they have a family constitution so that I can come and copy it. I have 3 drafts in my computer because it's best practice. And every time we talk about it, Mom says, go and write something. And I do write something. But it remains there. It remains there. We have what we call Mommy's family values, which around Christmas or Sunday lunch when everyone is there, she tries to remind us of what's important about family values. And so this last Christmas with Generation 2, my sister and I, Generation 2 and some Generation 3, we tried to corner Generation 3 into paying attention to Kaka's values. Kaka is grandmother. Kaka's values and what they mean and what Nina Interiors means to them. We kind of boxed them in a corner. You're at the dining table, you're not leaving. And then for those who are not around, we put it on the WhatsApp group to get their feedback. That was Christmas. I'm still waiting for feedback. But after this, I'm going to tell them, look, we were singled out as a family business. We better come up with our constitution.
Exactly. Thank you so much. I'm happy you have drafts. That means,
Yes,
something is
we do
happening.
have a draft.
Yeah. Dawn, I want to take us to our third theme, which is conflict resolution and family dynamics. In your sphere, are you experiencing any conflicts on the family side that then spill over into the business side? And then what mechanisms do you have to resolve the conflicts on the family side as well as on the business side?
So I think it was during the time when Mom was still in the business, it was my earlier realization that we couldn't avoid conflict. The fact that we were in different generations, that alone was something, okay? The ideas that I brought that she felt were just a bit too ambitious, a bit too rushed. And then secondly, we couldn't help but conflict because I was coming from a very academic angle. And for us, she was coming from a very practical angle. And the entrepreneur angle that at some point did need things to add up or make sense or look doable. If she felt that was in her conscience that this thing would actually work. You didn't need to tell her how risky it was. So it was inevitable that we ended up conflicting multiple times. And it was also the realization I learned that in your mother's eyes, you'll always be a son. Okay? It was such a humbling thing. Even I thought I graduated. Oh, now I'm a graduate. So there are many decisions that were just really very difficult to bring across. But it was also very humbling to find a way to still get to convince her, even when I knew there were a number of things that would be different. What we're trying to do now with my siblings, it's genuinely very inevitable. One thing we've shared with them, especially when they came into the business and hold formal positions and functional roles in the business, is that when you're in the business and we're in a meeting, if there's a responsibility or something you had to accomplish, if you hear me speaking to you, please note that I'm speaking to you as the MD. Because I'll be as tough as I can possibly be. The company secretary, if we have bits that are delaying in how fast the contracts are being drafted, I will be very, very straight up and say, I think you need to do better. You're slowing down the entire process. In the meeting, when we go home, when we are relaxing, I'll be happy to say, hi, how are you doing? I hope you had a great day. So I think we have a chance to appreciate that. And when I got married, I also took a deliberate decision to really stay close to our family home. To my siblings, and intentionally to try to keep that relationship. So I don't start to feel distant as an MD, yet I still needed to be a brother, and at some point needed to be a parent. So blending these three bits has always been very, very challenging and conflicting for me. Because there are times when I have to take on the parental role to say, you can't do that. Then I also need to be a good brother who can chat and smile and make jokes around with them. And at the same point, I also have to be the MD that must make sure they're accountable. But these other social endeavors, the lunches, the breakfasts, they help to break down that protocol that comes into the business. And you get room to then talk about these things and discuss them. And when you shared about the family constitution, in the last year, we attended the Africa Family Business Summit. And for us, it was a good learning point to see that you need to really treat the family very uniquely. Because the biggest decision and question there was, we're talking about family businesses. And the family business is made of family and the business. But what's more important? Okay? What's more important? And the discussion went on and on, but we felt that there was a need to sustain family while, again, ensuring that the business moves forward. Okay? And on the family end, the decision is a bit more emotional, like you've noted. So we allow that while at the office, let's try to keep things professional. Even to the management team, I have an obligation to ensure that I speak to these managers like managers and not either babysit them or try to cut ways around them to favor them or look like I don't see what they do in case they err. So what really worked over the time has been us appreciating that we took on formal responsibilities in the business, and when we speak to each other with respect, we speak to each other in those roles. And when you get a chance to go and do something family-oriented, have lunch, have breakfast, that's to allow the family end to come out. So how we've handled that, it's to appreciate that there are those boundaries. But I must say it's a very conflicting thing because it is still their brother who is the MD. So it gets a bit challenging. And that's, I think, something that we are taking on as a work in progress. You learn through the experiences, them hard, others you move along.
Aga, do you have any perspectives on family dynamics and conflicts? You quarrel with your sister, and then this way you come in the business and you must have joint decisions or some delegated authority. But I also wanted to hear from you, because you have, I think now, fourth generation in what I heard. Third, yes. So are they interested in the business? Are you speaking to them? Are you having that conversation?
Yeah. Okay. I'll answer the last question first. Yes, we do have my sons are the older of the third generation. We've made attempts to try and interest them in the business. I can't say that they are very successful. They are very much teetering on, this is not really my passion. But yes, we do understand that it is the way we've earned a livelihood. So it's very much a fence, sitting on the fence. No decision, or I can't say that there is any beady-eyed somebody who's ready, who we can say, yes, we're going to pour all our knowledge. So we've been trying with all of them to try and find areas of interest. We often engage them. One of my sons, for instance, is a data scientist. So it's to sort of say, okay, how can we integrate your knowledge of data science and coding into, even as I was driving here, we were sort of on the phone talking about a customer service and a customer helpline and a chatbot that he's been building. So that's the sort of thing that we still try to keep them close. Are we terribly successful? I think at that level, I will say, ask me the same question in a few years. I have no answer today. But I think the question around conflict resolution is one that I give quite a lot of thought to. We, of course, are still fortunate that my father is still present, and he's quite aware, and he's other than just being retired and not being involved in the business day to day, he's quite aware of the goings on of what happens. So he will get a periodical update of what's happening. But he would be an arbiter, I would say. I think that we've also been fortunate that fairly early on, both my parents, I think my father and my late mother, really chose what they look at as a secondary arbiter, like a backup, plan B. If somebody is not present, there is a person that is an arbiter. And I think that this is fairly important, management of conflict. And I think I know a question that comes up, 9 out of 10 times when we have these discussions. Why? Fortunately, I don't see anybody of the same persuasion here. Why are Asians more successful at succession than Ugandans? And this question I've delved into quite a bit, and I know that one of the things that I know that principally is that within the Asian communities, especially the business communities, their conflict resolution has been embedded, especially in their religious institutions. So you tend to find that the Ismaili community at their mosque and at their prayer place have an imam where they have conflict, they have a person of a higher value, of a higher position in their society to go to actually resolve some of their conflicts. And I think this is something that amongst our families is something that we need to fairly early on identify and provide sufficient authority. Documents are the best. So I mean, a will is perfect in that aspect, and I think senior counsel will say yes, there has to, and the wills are there, and I will also say, sort of just to add, for us in Islam, you have to have a will. It is just part of living. To believe is to know that you will pass on. So you are required to have a will every single day, as long as you own something that you can pass on. So the wills are there, but that does not remove the possibility of conflict. So I think it is always important that there, even amongst the the arbiters in the family, there is a clear hierarchy so that it is not upon one person and then all of a sudden there is a blank space. So in our setup, we clearly know if my father is not available, we know who is a possible arbiter, and we have the documentation to fit. So, but I think they're all works in progress, really, as far as conflict resolution. But I think we just have to evolve into better ways of being able to resolve, because typically conflicts are small. They're not huge to begin with. They're normally small, and they sort of just grow wings and they grow ears and all sorts of things, and eventually become quite destructive.
Okay, thank you, Aga. We are kind of running out of time on just the panel, but I needed you to first stay with on there as we go into ESG, because for a business like yours that is heavily regulated, I know ESG is such a big thing, resilience and sustainability. How do you embed sustainability in how you operate?
Yes, sustainability is primary for an agribusiness, especially around areas like animal welfare, food safety, environmental management, water management, and waste management. Those are important things in our, what we would say, our sustainability charter, and being able to ensure that we will be in business next year, and we will be in business in 5 years' time, probably in the same area. So we need to manage resources. We need to manage our waste. We need to manage our environment within which we work. And we need to be kind to the communities that we work with and that are in our vicinity. We need to find that balance. And where we have developed policy that we use on a day-to-day, and we routinely review at a governance level, at the board level, to ensure that this policy is still fit for purpose, and also fit for the regulators who have to review it. I think that's really the main thrust of those main areas as far as we're concerned.
Thank you. Don, do you ought to comfortably speak about sustainability, because even in the name of the business, I think it's saying Aloysia Organic. There is a sustainability declaration in the name. So maybe share with us how you embed sustainability in the operations.
So just like for companies and human beings at a basic level, we have an obligation to ensure that as we pursue either success or successful living, we are mindful of the environment in which we exist and that we're not being a danger to it. So at Aloysia Organic, one of the earlier bits that we contributed to was that when UNDP came on board to say we needed to have a gender seal, and this was something that companies had to sign up upon to ensure that a great percentage of their recruits into the entity were going to be, gender inclusive, and that was the goal. Aloysia was one of the first 13 companies in Uganda that signed up to the Gender Equality Seal. And that allowed us to ensure that we look inward into the entity, our recruitment, our involvement, and gender equality in terms of management positions, in terms of responsibility, and how we engage. And on the other end, we've been mindful in terms of how we manage the ecosystem in which we exist. The product that Aloysia produces has so many contributors, those stakeholders that really come from the outgrowers, the farmers that supply the inputs, to the people that transport those inputs to our premises, to how we manufacture them, to how we provide them onto the market. We have been ensuring that the very outgrowers that supply us, we bring back value in terms of their awareness on how they can manage quality, how they dry the inputs to ensure that we're using mechanisms like solar drying that actually protect the environment, and that when we receive value, it's easy for us to also be able to put value back into the market and to ensure that what we're doing is safe. Us staying very close to NDA is a unique obligation under ESG because we're ensuring that we remain regulated and that somebody watches over the quality of what we are doing. And one of the other unique things that Mom left behind was an institute. In Bombo, Karule, there sits Aloysia Organic Training Institute. What she had in mind was that I've been a pioneer in this industry, and yes, I may have all this knowledge. But to be able to grow the industry, you don't just look inward to say you're going to grow Aloysia Organic. It's important that the entire ecosystem grows. So at Aloysia Organic Training Institute, we are training the next generation of people in the field of herbal pharmaceuticals and herbal medicines. On 49 acres of land sits a vast variety of species of herbal medicines, trees that people are now coming into. Makerere University recently sent their students, pharmacy students. Mbarara University of Science and Technology has visited. This month end, we are receiving Victoria University students of pharmacy, and we are now feeding into the ecosystem that's educating the future pharmacists and experts in this very field. So we're happy to contribute in multiple ways, and vis-a-vis us just thinking that we can grow by profit. And on the other end, we're now looking at how we can be better in terms of packaging and waste management, because we've also outsourced the function to ensure that we manage waste to the best extent possible and that our packaging is friendly to the environment. And this is really a work in progress as well, because it's pertinent that all the products that we sell, how are all these customers that are buying the products disposing of the plastics that the product leaves behind? So it's a conscious decision to continuously look into the ecosystem.
Yeah, just stay with that, because you said something, then we tickled our last and fifth theme, which is innovation, AI, and digital, and the future readiness of our businesses. You cannot talk of sustainability now without embedding technology and AI. And if you're able to share what Aloysia now has embarked on in that space to enable scalability, endurance, and sustainability.
One of the earliest bits that we felt was pertinent to Aloysia Organic was to future-proof the business in terms of any emerging trends that may not have been part of its original founding but will be pertinent for the future. And AI and technology has been one of them. As we cross into the effort to move our products into pharmacies, there's a very big challenge for us to break bulk of the product. If this were a herbal product, for example, for you to be able to create access to people all over the world, all over the country, and move that easily, logistics with cost reduced, you must break the bulk of the product. So that means that we must be able to look at the active components of that product at a minimal level and break that bulk of having somebody to consume a whole bottle rather than probably just a capsule. So our research with these universities is to try to ensure that we scale down. And that requires lots of science involved, lots of technology, and lots of holding hands with other institutions. And on the other end, about 2 months ago, we actually had an AI expert come through on our Monday meetings to talk to the management team. If you're now looking at how your entities can be more efficient, it tracks down to how your teams will be more efficient. And today, AI is helping many people in different roles to be much more efficient. How long is it taking them to write reports if they actually also have to think strategy and execute? So for the routine roles that we have at Aloysia Organic, that was the purpose of that training, that managers can be equipped on how well we can work faster in terms of design, in terms of strategy building, in terms of creating and projecting, or at least ideally being able to craft concepts, even formulation. Today, it's much, much easier to use the AI platforms to actually have models of formulations that can be pertinent to the business. And lastly, the future of the business today will not be in how many branches Aloysia Organic will open, but it's aligned to how well we'll create access to the products to anybody, anywhere in the world. And we visited DHL to have this formalized, to ensure that we have an arrangement with them. As we are making an effort to break the bulk, our clients can then be able to order products through our website, and they can be able to ship these products, so transport them anywhere and deliver them. across the world. So that ease of access to the product with the ease of finding information about the product is what's really guiding us. And lastly, I'll just talk about data management. So someone once said that one of the days when things like oil and so on were the, much more valuable, with all due respect to our chairperson.
You might need Aga's son. He's a data
To be involved, yes. But as we value the oil, one of the other unique things is data. And how we as companies at Aloysia Organic, we receive multiple patients or visitors every other day. So how we manage that data in a world of data privacy and how we use that data to inform the future products of the business can easily be aligned to technology and AI, because through the number of people that come in and the concerns they have, it's easy for us to project or track what future products we can actually innovate or actually avail to the market.
Thank you. I think, Aga, you are feeling comfortable talking about data now. If I knew that your son was in that space, I would have asked you very hard questions. But let's hear whether there is technology embedded and AI in the operations.
We, of course, we have a fairly delicate balance. We have a delicate balance in our production lines, in terms of balancing the need, the need for employment, the need for cheaper productivity, versus technology and advancement. We have converted some of our more repetitive and redundant processes to being a bit more robotic. So those ones are a conversion there. A conversion there does happen, but so in a few places, a few places that along the lines that we work with, and we automate we've automated a lot of our lines to whereby what previously used to be maybe 60 or 70 man facility today is 15 or 18 person. So a lot of it has become fairly automated. So a lot of that has we've done. But in some of our mass lines where we have where a large number of people are employed, we still do have to appreciate that the public, that we are in a country where a certain amount of employment has to be provided. But coming to technology, in terms of trends, I think that the things that our board has to grapple with a little bit is around things like cyber risk, climate resilience, which is one of the things that people are talking about now. And we've been also working as we expand our farms is trying to figure out how to do a bit of disease modeling to try and understand the spread of certain diseases which reduce productivity. So we need to be able to understand how these are changing, especially in light of our environment and the fact that we have a lot of local breeds and we have a lot of some of these diseases already embedded into our local populations. So and they carry these diseases with them without any harm to these individual flocks themselves, but in concentrated flocks where there are large numbers, these diseases would have an impact on productivity. But yeah, I think certainly there are quite a bit of advantages around data management. Now we're able to get quite a lot of analytics done. We can see numbers very many different ways because of the advantages that you have from deeper insights from data analytics. So certainly there are new advantages to the trends, but ultimately at the end of the day we still have to hold that bone of chicken and eat it. So we remain still we still remain focused on the core role of making sure that we can feed the population with protein.
Thank you so much. So we are coming to the end of our panel discussion, and as we come to the end, let me just first recognize our 400 people online. 400 are online, so we thank you all that are logged in. I can see the questions, they are enormous. We are trying to categorize them. And as we get the general thread, I'll ask then Patricia to kick us off on your last remark and your general insights, but include ESG and tech and AI. Yeah.
I know we are pressed for time, but there is a question you didn't ask me. And if I don't answer it, I'll have cheated the 400-something people on who are listening. So it was about conflict and conflict resolution. At Interiors, I am the managing director. I am the youngest of the 4 children, and yet I have other family members. So because the family hierarchy is not reflected, or the birth order is not reflected in the company hierarchy, that is opportunity for conflict. Now, this is what happens. Home is home, work is work. It's a family business. It's a business which, by the way, is owned by a family and run by a family. So regardless of the friction here and there, ultimately what it is the business. When it comes to resolution, we have our fountain of honor, our founder, our mother, who is 83 years old now, very strong, very healthy, very alert. But what happens when she's gone? In the meantime, for the business, where there's conflict, it's not necessarily with my sister. It could be with my management team. How do we resolve that conflict? And this is where the board comes in. This is where corporate governance comes in. Really, to make decisions in business, it's supported by data, it's supported by numbers, but governance comes into sort of as an arbitrator to help the two sides look at things properly. And also, aside from the board just making us accountable, the board now has the role in conflict of being the buffer. You are members of a family, then you have a board which has non-family members who are also non-executives. These sort of watered down the acrimonious conflicts that would have been there if the entire board was just family, because family relations could be affected. But because you have non-executive directors on board and they're non-family, it waters it down and forms a buffer. That's what I felt I really needed to share, because that's the key on governance.
Okay, you can set more questions for yourself. Okay, we are closing now.
Yes, closing. I'll be very quick about technology. Of course, like they've said about AI, let me just go on the cautious side of AI. AI, I think that one day we'll discover that there are aliens behind it, because the speed at which those questions are answered, which you put in whatever format, there must be some like 100 aliens in my computer doing that. But AI is a vehicle that can transport your company to growth. It's a fast car, a very fast car. And if you have the wrong driver driving that car, you'll end up with a fatal accident. So that's on the side of precaution. Just this morning, we had a training for our sales team on AI. Not necessarily how to use AI, but how not to use AI. How we must protect ourselves, protect our data, protect our customers, and maintain authenticity. We are going to be having a series of trainings for different parts or departments in the company, for the finance department, for the interior design department. They're having a ball. The marketing department, they get very clever. And I keep saying, I want to see something that's not 100% AI. Be more creative, authentically creative. So that is with AI. I'm being really fast because I had to bring out. Yes, well, we have an in-house CRM that we've done, looking at the costs of a normal CRM and the monthly costs that you have to come in and the lack of flexibility. We built our own. We had a resource who could build our own. And we're now investing a lot in machinery to make our work better and faster.
Thank you. Parting shots. Anything you've not, whatever I've not asked you.
Let me give just one more thing that you've not asked me, sorry. One more thing, very fast, is because this was about corporate governance and family, if a family business is going to take on a board, corporate governance, it means they're going to have non-family members and all that. I won't say why they should, but a word of caution, let it not be ceremonial, that you're just filling up the board with family members and a few best friends. Let it not be ceremonial. Let it be functional. Let it be something that will grow the business. I've kept it short.
Thank you so much. Aga, what do you leave with this room and our 400 attendees on the line? Some wisdom. What should we do as family businesses in the next 30 days? Whatever. Wisdom.
We seem to have. I recall this. We've spoken to most of them. I would have, I think, been keen to hear. I would have been keen to hear some of the questions, because I'm sure there are a few, as opposed to me setting my own questions, because I know the answers to those ones. So I would like to hear from the audience. I think it would be more.
Okay.
It would be more valuable.
Okay, and we have quite a number of questions. So it was really parting shots, yeah.
Yes, I think my parting shot will be that, so every time we discuss legacy really speaks, usually we think of all these physical things that were in place and, that's the kind of picture to legacy. But I think the reminder is that legacy is mostly in the unseen. So that's something that we need to plant in the generations that we think we need to come best after us. So legacy is really in the unseen. So as you're also trying to, I think, establish your own legacy, build those ways of working, those values, instill those values, the systems, that's really the unseen, because all these practical bits, the property and all these things can always be done. But I think legacy is best built in the unseen. And that's what stays true along the journey, because all these other physical things can change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I know I asked for parting shots, but I'm seeing there are a few questions. I'm going to read them, the categories, and then we'll see how to, in lawyers' terms, we say how to obtain leave to enlarge time, and we see how to deal with them. So someone is asking, if a startup like me who is starting a local chicken business, when should I consider formalizing and creating a board? There's another question, how do you handle a private company that appoints you on the board, but they do not utilize the governance structure, neither take your advice? I think, you spoke to that. How can a founder's role be optimally structured within management and the board in a bid to protect business interests and ensure effective oversight? I think there's an overlap in the theming. And how do you handle children who have no interest in the business, Aga? Should siblings who are not actively involved in managing or running the business be entitled to ownership, benefits, dividends, decision-making rights, simply because they are children and beneficiaries of the founders? We cannot ignore these questions. I think we are going to enlarge time. Just hang on. Can I hear? What is that thing in Parliament? The years have it? Eyes. Okay, so let's enlarge time. I think these are pertinent questions. Okay. Patricia, you want to take some?
Rapid fire. But for the question that do siblings who are not involved in the business, do they have rights to dividends and what, even though they are not working in the business? I think this one would be legal. Are they shareholders? Because if they are shareholders, they're entitled to dividend. There is something that I see in family businesses, directors' drawings, and I know of certain family businesses where they give family members a monthly stipend or a weekly stipend. I don't know how we would survive at Nina Interiors. I earn a salary. So does my mom. Everybody earns a salary. That's how it is. So for family members who are not in the business, they should be earning a dividend, unless the business is so structured that there is an amount that can be taken out to be dished to them. And then about these children who don't want to join the business. Many years ago, before I had children, I imagined my children would automatically join the business. They're still too young now, but maybe they will. But I'm seeing from generation 3 that maybe they won't. Maybe they won't. And I'm thinking, and I say it again, that a family business is a business which, by the way, is owned and partially run by a family. What happens if the family is small and you don't have enough family members to work in the business? Don't you take on others? In our business, I didn't have the financial skill. We took on a finance manager, and we took on more and more staff because the family cannot do everything. So wouldn't it be better to have corporate governance and structures in place, accountabilities and controls that can allow a family to own a business that is not necessarily run by them? Isn't it possible that we should not force this third generation, fourth generation to join the business, but force them to love it, support it,
Okay.
and understand that it's part of their legacy, but not necessarily force them to join against their will?
Okay.
Have you thought how good it would be for that fourth generation, how productive they would be in the business if they wanted to be in, and how unproductive and destructive they would be if they didn't want to be in? Food for thought.
Thank you so much. We are going to sit with that thought. Thank you. Aga.
I think I'll follow on with, I think one of the things that is an active thought in our thought process is one where maybe generation 3 or generation 4 could be at a governance level. Could they work with now fully professional teams to run the business day to day, while they learned things at a level of governance? Is one of the options that I think exists where family members are no longer interested in running the business. There is more extremes. That you would end up with diaspora family members. So it is one thing whereby at least a family member lives in Muyenga, the business is in Lubowa, and at least the family member is in the vicinity. There is a possibility that the family member could be in Australia, and they are very far away. They are in a different time zone. They have absolutely no track of what's going on a day-to-day basis. So I think it calls for one a lot more education on the part of our generation to ensure that could they be maybe perhaps at a governance level, could they be able to just have a few of them take on the shareholding and remain as the principals if they are the ones who are to come through. And so it is not one whereby everybody is entitled to shareholding. There are several questions and combinations, and one of the things is sort of to share experiences with other families, because the truth of the matter is that there are many variations of how this has been done over the many numerous of years. There are Japanese businesses which are, so many generations, hundreds of years, on record. So I think that there are ways and means, but I think that it's all going to be some things that we're going to learn over the next couple of years.
Thank you. Dawn, in half a minute.
Yes, I'll be very quick. So the bit of handling children who don't have interest in the business is it may not be rule of thumb, but truth be told, if you can make an effort to start them young, it's much easier. If you start them young, it's much easier. And I was reading somewhere and someone said that the wealthy choose the passions or hobbies of their children, while others wait for the children to decide what they'll be interested in. If you look at those successful sports stars or wherever, I don't want to take it very beyond, but the likes of Lewis Hamilton and so on and so forth, I mean, the parents choose that you will get interested in Formula One, you know, in go-karts or something. The same goes for Tiger Woods or something. Maybe when they barely knew what golf was, their dad said, you're going to be a golf player. So there's just a bit of uniqueness if you start a bit earlier. I agree, it's not rule of thumb, it may not work all the time, but if you have an effort to start them much earlier, and I think you can pursue it over time. We can all agree in this room that if you think about the things you're really interested in today, they're not things you could have been interested in 10 years ago. And this evolves over time, either through exposure or learning, or interest can be built. The second thing quickly is that siblings are not actively involved in the business. Everything around benefits is aligned around structure. And that's where the legal minds come in to help us with this. Family involvement in business is very unique, like Patricia highlighted. Some will own the business and also run the business. Some are simply in the ownership of the business, and some are simply in the running of the business, and some are in none, but they are still family members. But in the structure of the business, there's a uniqueness where benefits are aligned to each of those people. Those that are shareholders have benefits. Those that are simply employees in the business but family have a salary. Those that are either suppliers or anything have their benefit in that regard. So structure is what really revolves and guides that benefit to the people who consider themselves as family in the business. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll soon invite a corporate governance guru, we call him Chief, to give a few insights. Japheth Kato, when he's in the room, I don't want to not hear from him. And I think we are in agreement. Are we aligned in that thinking?
Yes.
Yay, Japheth, say something.
Those who clapped are less those who did not clap, so there is no alignment. I really thought I was coming to just sit and enjoy this, which I have done, different ideas and so on. They have covered the stuff that we talk about in corporate governance. Sometimes it was very interesting to hear how many boards have independent members who are not members of the family, because the family business is about control and ownership, and then you can get into management. You don't have to manage a family business, but if you do it, that's very good. Then the other idea of getting them in at an early stage. Aga talked about the Indian business. That boy goes in the shop when he's still a kid, and he's busy doing the job. And remember, always the cashier is a family business person. But some of us, not me, but those who were growing up, if your parent had a shop and you tried to go there, they would push you back. You go in the back there. So I think getting the younger people in the business at an early stage is something that I have picked up. And then getting them trained. You send them to Harvard and let them know. Because you see, the respect in that business by the professionals, whom you've said you have professional AR, you have professional finance, auditors, and so on. They're going to respect you, not necessarily because you are a blood, because you are a member of the family. It's because you actually have the skills and the leadership. So, and that will, I think, continue to do so it's quite interesting. They have touched all areas. CSR is very, very interesting, hearing Dawn and what they are doing with universities and so on. So this is a key opener. But what's the big elephant in the room? That word which starts with S, that word called succession. And this discussion will be constrained to succession in the family businesses. Because I know when you guys hear succession, you start getting very, very, very excited. But we're talking about here. So that is where the interesting debate and so on. Do you let them know if they don't want to take over to do the business of chicken or interiors and so on, do you force them? Or do you just say, this is a family business, therefore they have to be owners, So there will be shareholders. Because remember also, to remain a family business, you must get control. You must get control. So you may need them as shareholders. And as other, maybe put them on the governance and so on. But the other thing, I think, don't talk about legacy. I think a legacy is may not necessarily be the family business continuing in the next 100, 200 years, owned and managed by families, but that family business was started by a family. It is Price Waterhouse and Coopers and Lybrand. I don't know whether their relatives still working there, but they started the business. So that, I think, you can extend the definition to say that, look, you know what, these kids are not interested. I mean, they're interested in investment banking in New York and at at the stock exchange in here in Nakawa. They may not be interested in that. But just very finally, since you gave me a chance, I was just, even when you are invited, you do a bit of reading up, right? I hope you guys will spend the whole night reading about these things. The Economic Policy Research Center, which you know here, did this policy brief, ensuring continuity, succession planning strategies for Ugandan family businesses. And just like, what do I read there? They talk about how important it is. I didn't realize it contributed 70% of the GDP is contributed by family businesses. It was incredible. But yes, they're big. The other thing, of course, family businesses are not small. They're big. I mean, look at the Agas, look at the Madivanis, Mulwanas, and Ninas, and here we go. They're quite big. But very quickly, their research findings and a lot of data from PwC and so on, and also they did a survey. They went to 11 different districts doing this survey. The findings show that some established family businesses are adopting promising succession planning practices, including early exposure of the younger generation to the business, hands-on learning across operational levels, deliberate transfer of business networks, and gradual formalization of transaction processing. However, succession planning remains constrained by founder dominance, limited interest among young family members, gender-biased succession norms, and complexities arising from polygamous family arrangements. My family, I'm born in a polygamous family, so I know what they're talking about. To ensure better succession planning, there is a need to promote an early engagement of the younger generation in the business and formulate the succession process for structure and clarity during transition. Thank you for giving me the chance. Thank you.
Can we take 2 burning questions that won't allow us to repeat ourselves? Nothing repetitive. One hand here, one hand there. Yes. Two online. Two questions online. But let's do with the ones in the room.
Okay, thank you so much to the panelists. Am I restricted to just one question? Oh no. Wow, okay. Okay, let me just lump it up. Conflict. My name is Doris Kaitesi. I'm a principal associate at Nangwala Resident Company Advocates. I'm a corporate governance professional, very excited to be here. Question number 1. Conflict. What are those clauses that you believe would be beneficial to manage conflict? Second question, agentic AI. Have you explored that for your businesses, tailor-making this AI to support your goals? And how has that worked out for you, if you have explored it?
You're a governance specialist. One question.
Okay, answer question number 2.
We had a gentleman at the back.
Hi, my name is Masha Katende. Thanks for the discussion. My question is particularly with regards to succession planning and corporate governance. So as you scale your business and you incorporate or implement corporate governance and internal controls, how do you then ensure that the person in the family you pass the business on to has buy-in from, let's say, the board or other stakeholders? Because it could be seen as, let's say, nepotism, for example, if you just bring in, for example, your son, and he doesn't have the requisite, camaraderie with the staff, or he doesn't know the business from the beginning, as you said, how do you then pass it from one generation to another, especially as you scale? Because we've seen, for example, exits into the stock market, and there you're answering to, the wider shareholding public.
The question is a question.
So yes,
finished?
my question is, how do you have corporate governance, but then pass it on to someone within your own family, while making it look like they deserved that position in the family business? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Aga, can we start with you? If Patricia, you have something to add, you could follow on. But first, Aga.
I'll attempt the last question from Marsha. I think the answer would be that you cannot pass on the business if somebody doesn't have the respect and trust of the key stakeholders. If somebody doesn't have the respect and trust of the employees, you can pass on the authority, but you will not pass on the trust to them. That's why it's important that there is a proper transition inbuilt, or the person is properly skilled, properly knowledgeable, and so it is incumbent on the current operators and runners or current family that is running the business, to ensure that they prepare and they build the person that's coming up. So it's not just a matter of handing over a baton to somebody and expect that it will work. So I think what we have to accept, that it is highly likely to be a process, and you need to avoid it being an event as much as possible.
Yes, I'm answering the same question. I echo what Aga has said. But for example, if the children are much younger, what then happens? Ideally, if you're going to pass on the baton, would have earned their stripes. But like happened with John, it was very sad and untimely and abrupt when his mother passed. If the children are younger, then what happens? This is where corporate governance comes in. If in your business now you can set up the structures and have a really strong board, so that when the time comes and the business has to be passed on to an 18-year-old, there's sort of like a caretaker government that's going to hold that business in place while this 18-year-old becomes of age to take on the mantle. Because we've seen fortunes that have been squandered away just because they were left to someone very young. That's my contribution.
Yes, I think Aga and Patricia have summarized the last question. And in the sense, it's not a matter of blood that you take over the business, it's a matter of competence. So the other is just, another supporting factor, but it's never a matter of blood. So ideally, train as much as you can, expose. If somebody is trained, exposed, I don't think they will really have disrespect for the teams they work for, because they'll understand that the value actually comes from those very teams that the company name is built. The first question from Kaitesi that was asking about clauses that will probably manage these conflict management drafts best. I've always thought about the fatality of decisions that are made, okay? We can err and a number of things can go wrong. But I remember one time when I had to fire somebody, that was my first fire. One of the longest serving people in the business would also been a family member. She had been involved in counterfeit production of one of the cosmetics products, and she was very valued. Everybody knew about her. Every client respected her. Everyone knew her. But in that element, to manage that, I felt if you are going to be able to reach an extent where you'll do something that counters the very business or the family that you're meant to take pride in, then there will be an indefinite arrangement. So I think we can have all these management bits to handle the conflict, and the uniqueness of a third party is great because there is always an element of taking sides. Sometimes when there are family members involved, it's good if there can be a third party that kind of deals with these conflicts. That's why sometimes entities have committees that kind of sit to have an objective view on a conflict, so that it doesn't look like this was, he said that because he's the big brother. But lastly, for me, it's that fatality of the decisions. The family must be protected, the business must be protected. To the extent that somebody does something that hurts the business or hurts the family, then honestly, that's something that's a no-brainer. The family first, business forward.
Thank you. No attempt to the second question. Was it an AI question?
If you could come again, sorry. Agentic AI, have you explored it? Okay, so in that last training that we had, it was the first time that I heard that you can actually build agents that can support you in a number of tasks in the entity. So I had heard about AI, but agentic AI for me was the first time in that training. And I think it also highlights the need, like Patricia shared, for us to continuously train ourselves and our staff. So I learned that you can actually build an agent that either frequently or maybe every month or every week does a certain task for you because you've trained it to do so and fed it to that information that somehow works in an automated form. And all of us in the room have capacity to do it. It's not an IT thing.
Thank you. So in conclusion, when Japheth pulled out things, I also said, let me show him. I also have something.
You also read, eh?
Yeah. You are not the only one who read. Yeah? And I read your things. Yeah? I asked the Secretariat to do a few slides, but this is what I wanted to leave this room with. There are 3 yardsticks, especially because we are talking about scalability, endurance like French, I'm trying to be French, sustainability. A lot of it sits in the Companies Act on the business side. Then on the family side, it is going to be your Succession Act. So you're going to think of your Succession Act, the Companies Act. Now, in terms of scaling, this is where I'm coming to Japheth's place. There is the USE GEMS, They are not mandatory for private companies, but we are asking businesses to think in terms of how will you go to the market to get capital? Even if it's never your intention, but what is your sense of readiness, to attract talent, top talent, to attract equity investors, So think of what the USE GEMS, Japheth, GEMS is what? Growth enterprise markets. Segment. Okay. You see, I read your things. But that, for you to prepare yourself and start thinking like you could list, that is another way of thinking of growing, of scaling and enduring, building endurance. The other way is the IFC progression matrix. IFC has a whole handbook on on family-owned businesses, governance, and then different growth patterns, how you grow from, it's a spectrum, from zero to the best, from starting to leadership. So these are tools that we can go and tease out in our own private spaces. Then the other thing I wanted to speak about is when you're talking about family-owned businesses, building enduring legacies, there are 3 elements: the family governance, the business governance, and the estate planning, trust, and wills. So those 3 should not be in conflict. Your family governance, your family constitution, family council, family assembly. And then there is obviously this way, there is the group, or if it's one company, it's your mem arts, articles of association, board charter, shareholders agreement. And a lot of conflict resolution happens in the shareholder agreement as well. Because the family documents will not, they are not binding. They are soothing documents, They diffuse the tension that we create in families, such that when we are in the business side, we've already de-escalated the conflict in the family. So they are non-binding, but they are good. They deal with our emotional side. The ones that the law will respect are the ones under your Companies Act, your will, and your estate planning structure. So those 3 things should always be in tandem. So I thought that if that is the one thing I can bring to the room to overthrow Japheth, so that we see, yeah? But thank you so much. I will now invite Grace Kavuma to close us off.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Moderator. Wow, it's been beautiful. It's been nice. I want to start off with a little bit of what I think I've taken away from this. The importance of keeping your promises as a foundation for business success. I think that talked to me. And we thank you, Patricia, for sharing that. Your business does not care who runs it. It cares about the quality of the decision. So Don, thank you for sharing that. And my brother Aga, as a founder, and as the business grows and scales, you need proper governance. You need people to be accountable to. But I was reflecting and saying, you know, these people, you could be accountable to them, but they cannot fire you, can they? They cannot fire you. They cannot take you to the disciplinary, and hence the conflicts. There are succession planning lessons. I think many lessons have been shared around how to prepare successors, able successors, through delegation, through holding their hands, and ensuring that the next in line learn the lessons, opportunities for training. I think I take that away. Conflicts in family businesses, clear separation and dealing with sensitivities. For me, probably this is the biggest one. Because if you work with your sisters, and nobody here shared an example where they have had to fire one of their family members because of, oh, you did? You fired somebody. Hey, give him a big round of applause. The question of trust, especially inviting non-family members into a family business. I think that is a big and bold, mature step that businesses that look to grow and scale have to take. Now, those were my takeaways. I want to do a few thank yous. First and foremost to our panelists, Aga, Patricia, and Don. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing your experience, for sharing your journeys. I think we are all here in one shape or another. Family businesses of some sort, aren't we? And I think we've taken away many lessons. So again, give them some more love. We would also like to thank our able moderator, senior counsel. She's tough, isn't she? You don't get to this podium without being quite tough. Give her some more love, please. I would like to thank you, our audience, in the room here for honoring our invitation, and the audience online. We have had over 350 attendees online, and we thank all of you. We thank you for coming to attend the Boardroom Masterclass and for engaging our panelists. I believe our panelists are also taking away something from this Boardroom Masterclass. I also want to extend thanks to the vision bearers of this Boardroom Masterclass. Ligomark, led by Ruth. Thank you, Ruth. Covey, led by Chairman Linda. Linda is here. Thank you, Linda. Stedman, led by Rachel. Is Rachel in the house? She's online. And guess what? JKC, led by Chairman Japheth. Those are our vision bearers. We are going into year 4 of this boardroom masterclass, and we are still going strong. So thank you for having come up with this big and beautiful vision where you share the experiences with people like the panelists we have had today. I also want to extend appreciation to the Secretariat that have helped to put this boardroom masterclass together. This time, the captain of the team was Madame Rachel Arinaito. Rachel, can you stand up for recognition, please? That one. She was the head of this secretariat. She ran them in rings to ensure that it happens. Council Rachel, we thank you together with your team. Thank you very much. We have a few final issues to deal with. We don't have you guys here all the time, so we will take this opportunity to have a group photo with you and the vision bearers, those that are here. We have some refreshments outside for opportunity to network. So let's use that opportunity. I hope our panelists can afford us a little bit more time to deal with some of those very personal and closed questions that did not come through. We would like to appreciate, and at this point, Madam Moderator would like to close the session of those people who are online, over 360 people online. Thank you, colleagues online, for joining. And we hope to see you soon. We have had perennial sponsors. There are very many. We thank them, we appreciate them. ABI, Finance, ABI Development, FSD, Standard Chartered Bank, Stanbic Bank. We thank you, and we pray that you continue to partner with the Boardroom Masterclass going forward. Thank you very much. Let's use this opportunity to network and continue to engage with the panelists to the extent that they are still available. And please welcome to the refreshments that are available outside. Thank you, and have a good evening. Thank you.